I still remember the way she said it. Soft, almost like she didn't mean for me to hear. Stay until morning. It wasn't the words themselves. It was the silence that came after. The kind that makes your chest tighten because you're not sure what you've just stepped into. It was raining that night, the kind of steady, whispering rain that blurs the world outside and makes everything inside feel too close. I'd stopped by to return her son's toolbox. He'd lent it to me a week ago and gone back to college that morning. She answered the door in a gray sweater, sleeves pushed up, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked comfortable. Too comfortable for me to pretend she was just someone's mom. "Come in before you get drenched," she said. Her voice wasn't flirty, just kind. But kindness can be dangerous when you're 23 and she's 45 and you've already noticed how her laughter sounds like a secret. The living room was warm, dim lamplight, rain against the window, the faint smell of coffee gone cold. She set down a glass she'd been holding, condensation sliding down the side. I told myself not to stare, but she caught me anyway. The corner of her mouth lifted, like she almost said something, then didn't. We talked about nothing for a while. About the rain, the neighborhood, her son's old car that still sat in the driveway. She filled the silence too easily. I, on the other hand, couldn't find where to put my hands or my eyes. Every time she reached for something, her cup, the light switch, a folded blanket on the couch, her sleeve brushed my arm. Just enough to notice. Never enough to call it anything. "Do you want some tea?" she asked, already walking toward the kitchen. Sure," I said, because saying no felt wrong. "Chamomile okay?" "Yeah, that's fine." I watched her move around the small kitchen like she'd been doing it her whole life. Fluid, unhurried. The rhythm of someone who doesn't try to impress anyone anymore. When she turned to hand me the mug, her fingers grazed mine. Warm, just a second too long. Neither of us mentioned it. "You're quiet," she said. "You talk enough for both of us?" I tried to joke, but my voice came out lower than I meant. Her eyes met mine. Steady, unreadable. That's not a bad thing. The clock ticked. The rain didn't stop. At some point, she sat next to me on the couch. The distance between us was polite at first, a cushion's worth of safety. Then a little less, then none. Her shoulder brushed mine, and I felt it like a current running through me. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, staring at the rain through the window. "I hate when it rains like this," she said. "It makes the house too quiet." "I like it," I said. "Feels honest." She looked at me then, a small frown in her brow, like the word hit somewhere deeper than I meant it to. Her lips parted slightly as if to respond. Then she stopped. Instead, she sighed and sank back into the couch. The faint scent of her shampoo, something faintly citrus, drifted toward me. I couldn't unbreathe it. The rain got heavier. The lights flickered once. And then she said it, almost to herself. "You can stay until morning if you want." Her voice was quiet, but it landed between us like thunder. I didn't answer right away, because somewhere down the hall, a door creaked open. The house was still except for the sound of rain hitting the windows. The hallway light from her bedroom stretched thin across the living room floor, stopping just short of my shoes. I didn't move. She closed the door halfway, then opened it again, like she'd thought better of something. "I didn't mean," she began, then stopped. "I just meant it's late. The roads are bad." "I know," I said. "Good," she murmured, but she didn't walk away. She leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. That sweater again, soft gray, loose at the collar. Her skin glowed faintly in the lamplight, tired but beautiful in the way people are when they stop pretending. I stayed on the couch, pretending to scroll my phone. I wasn't reading anything, just listening to the sound of her breathing, even steady, close enough to touch if I turned my head. Finally, she said quietly, "You're too young to be sitting around in a stranger's house on a night like this. You're not a stranger." She laughed once, a breath through her nose. "No, I guess I'm not." She crossed the room, picked up the empty mug from the table, her fingers brushing mine again. Not by accident this time. I could feel her hesitation in the way she didn't pull away immediately. "My husband used to hate the rain," she said suddenly. Said it made him feel trapped. He's been gone 8 years now, but every time it storms, I remember how quiet the house got after he left. I looked up at her. I didn't know you were married. I was. A long time ago. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. He was older than me, if that makes it any less strange. It doesn't, I said before I could stop myself. Her head tilted slightly, not offended, more curious. You think this is strange? I think. I hesitated. People would. She nodded. People usually do. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The sound of rain filled the gap. Then she sat beside me again, closer this time, the faint smell of chamomile still on her skin. Her hair brushed my cheek when she turned toward me. You remind me of how I used to feel at your age, she said softly. Restless. Hungry for something I couldn't name. I wanted to ask what she meant, but the words wouldn't come out. She looked at me, not long, not boldly, just long enough that I forgot to breathe. The air between us tightened. My hand twitched against my knee, unsure whether to move. She noticed. Slowly, deliberately, she reached over and placed her hand on top of it. Her fingers were cool at first, then warm. Neither of us moved. Outside, the rain softened, and the ticking of the clock grew louder. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. You should get some sleep, she said. You can take the couch. But her hand stayed on mine a moment longer, long enough to mean something neither of us would admit. Morning came gray and wet, the sky pressing low over the neighborhood. I woke to the smell of toast and the sound of soft music coming from the kitchen. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I saw the blanket over me, neatly folded, and remembered everything. She was standing at the counter when I walked in, hair pinned up loosely, phone propped against a mug. A message tone buzzed, and she hesitated before flipping the screen face down. You're up early, she said, turning toward me with that careful half-smile that didn't give anything away. I couldn't sleep. Coffee's fresh. The air between us still carried last night. The hand that lingered, the silence that said too much. I could feel it in the way she avoided my eyes, pretending to be busy with the toaster. Then her phone buzzed again. She sighed and answered, voice light. Hey, yeah, he's still here. No, just helping me fix the shelf. A pause. Her tone shifted. Don't start, Maya. He's just a friend of Josh's. Her eyes flicked toward me. Quick. Guilty. She hung up, and the quiet that followed was heavy. Your friend? I asked. My sister, she said, too quickly. She worries. About everything. I nodded, pretending it didn't sting. But it did, how she had to explain me away, even if she didn't want to. She turned off the stove and came closer, maybe to change the subject, maybe because distance had started to feel unnatural. About that shelf, she said softly. Would you mind looking at it? The one in my room. Her room. I followed her down the hall, the carpet muffling our steps. The room was simple, tidy, warm, faint smell of her perfume lingering in the air. A book lay open on the nightstand. I noticed a photo half hidden beneath it. Her and a man, smiling, his arm around her. She saw me notice. Old photo, she said. I should have thrown it out by now. You don't have to. Maybe I do. She moved closer, brushing past me to reach the shelf. Her shoulder grazed my arm. Deliberate or not, I couldn't tell. I could feel her breath near my neck when she leaned forward. Here, I said, my voice rougher than I meant. I steadied the shelf with one hand, but my other brushed against hers. She froze. We didn't move. The space between us folded in, and for a heartbeat, everything else disappeared. The sound of rain, the memory of her husband, her sister's suspicion. There was only the nearness, the warmth of her skin. Her eyes met mine. She started to say something, then stopped. The phone buzzed again on her bed. She stepped back, as if waking from something too real. You should probably get going, she said, but her voice betrayed her. Softer now, almost regretful. I hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, probably. But when I turned toward the door, she reached out, Not to stop me, not exactly. Just her fingertips brushing my sleeve, a touch that said wait. Neither of us did. 3 days passed before I saw her again. I told myself I wouldn't go, that I'd let the space cool whatever had been building. But on the 4th night, I found myself on her porch anyway, toolbox in hand again, pretending I had something to fix. When she opened the door, she looked tired. Not the kind of tired from lack of sleep, the kind that comes from fighting something you can't name. You shouldn't keep showing up like this, she said, voice soft but unsteady. I know, I said. Then why are you here? I opened my mouth, then closed it. There wasn't a good answer. She sighed and stepped aside. Come in before someone sees you. The living room felt smaller than before, or maybe it was just the weight of what hadn't been said. She poured herself a glass of wine and held it for a long time before taking a sip. I watched the way her hand trembled, just slightly. You've been avoiding me, I said. I've been trying to be smart, she replied. Doesn't seem to be working. That made her laugh, quietly, but it cracked the space between us open. She set the glass down and turned toward me. You don't know what you're asking for. I'm not asking for anything. Yes, you are, she said, stepping closer. You're too young to understand what this would do to me. The word me caught in her throat. I felt it more than heard it. I took a slow breath. You think I haven't thought about that? Her eyes softened, pity maybe or recognition. Then stop thinking about it. But I couldn't. Not when she was standing close enough that I could smell her perfume again. That faint citrus warmth that had started to live somewhere in my memory. She moved to brush her hair behind her ear, and my hand lifted before I could stop it. Fingers brushing hers away, doing it for her. The strand slipped between my fingers, fine as silk. She froze. You shouldn't, she whispered. I know. Her breath caught. The wine glass on the table reflected us. Two blurred shapes leaning toward each other, hesitation drawn like a thread between them. I keep trying to convince myself this is nothing, she said quietly. But every time you look at me like that, like what? Like I'm someone you shouldn't want. Her voice trembled at the edges. I stepped closer, close enough that my chest almost brushed hers. I don't care what I should want, I said. The words hung there, dangerous, alive. She blinked once, slow, and for a heartbeat, she didn't move away. Her hand came up to my face, resting lightly against my jaw, thumb brushing the edge of my mouth. Then a knock at the door. We both froze. Her hand dropped. Her eyes darted to the window. Don't move, she whispered. The knocking came again, louder this time. And just like that, the line between us snapped back into place. The knocking didn't stop. It came sharp, insistent, like whoever stood outside already knew too much. She glanced at me once, eyes wide, then hurried to the door. Maya, she said when she opened it. Her sister's voice floated in from the porch. You didn't answer my texts. I was worried. I was in the shower, she lied quickly. Maya stepped inside before she could object. She was younger, brisk, carrying a folded umbrella dripping rain onto the rug. Her gaze swept the room, the half-empty wine glass, the 2 mugs, the still warm lamplight. Then her eyes landed on me. You again. I tried to smile, but my pulse was already hammering. Hey! She looked between us, suspicion thick enough to taste. You fixing something again? Yeah, I said. Shelf in her room. Her eyebrows lifted, just a flicker, but enough. In her room, she repeated, drawing out the words. The older woman, she stepped in fast, her tone calm but forced. Don't start, Maya. He's been helping me around the house. That's all. Maya's eyes didn't leave mine. You know people talk, right? He's your son's friend. That landed like a slap. When she didn't answer, Maya sighed, muttered something about coming back later, and finally left, closing the door too hard behind her. The silence that followed was suffocating. She leaned against the door, exhaling, eyes closed. God, she's going to tell him. Your son. She nodded slowly. Something inside her cracked then, the composure, the careful distance. She pressed her palms to her face, muttering, "I shouldn't have let this happen." "You didn't let anything happen," I said quietly. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure it was true. She looked up at me, hair falling loose around her face, eyes red at the edges. "You don't understand." I promised him. I promised I'd stay out of his life until he figured himself out. "You're his friend. If he finds out—" I stepped closer before she could finish. "You think I wanted this?" Her breath hitched. "Didn't you?" The question wasn't cruel. It was honest. Painfully so. I wanted to say no, but the truth was already between us, pulsing in the air. I reached out, brushing my fingers against her wrist. She didn't pull away. Her skin was cold. "Then stop looking at me like that," she whispered. "Stop making it harder to do the right thing." "I don't know what the right thing is anymore," I said. For a moment, neither of us moved. The rain outside had started again, softer now, but the sound only made everything feel closer. Her hand trembled when she pulled away. She turned toward the hallway, trying to steady her voice. "You should go. Tonight." "I will," I said, but I didn't move. She looked back once, and for a heartbeat, she almost said something else. Then, quieter, "If you come back, it won't end the same way." And she walked away, leaving the door open behind her. It had been weeks, long enough for the air to cool, for leaves to turn, for me to almost convince myself it was finished. Almost. When I saw her again, it wasn't planned. She was at the grocery store, standing in front of the coffee aisle, holding two identical brands like she couldn't tell them apart. I said her name before I could stop myself. She froze, then turned. For a second, I thought she might walk away. Instead, she gave a small, exhausted smile. "You always find me when I least want to be found. Then stop looking like someone I can't forget," I said. Came out quieter than I meant, but I didn't take it back. She exhaled, set the coffee down, and stepped closer. The fluorescent lights were too bright for a conversation like this, too clean for what sat between us. Still, she didn't leave. "Don't start," she said softly. "Please. I didn't come here for this." I lied. Her eyes met mine, and something unspoken broke loose between us. The weeks apart, the things unsaid, the ache of pretending. "You're lying," she whispered. I laughed under my breath, shaking my head. "I know." We stood there, just breathing the same air. People passed behind us, carts squeaking, someone coughing near the bakery. The world went on, but inside that narrow aisle, time pressed flat. She finally said, "Come by tonight, one last time." Then we stopped pretending. The house smelled the same, faint citrus, warm wood. She didn't turn on the main lights, only the lamp by the couch. Her hand shook slightly when she poured wine, but she didn't hide it. "I thought about calling you," she said. "Why didn't you?" "Because I knew I'd tell you to come." We were closer now than we'd ever been without touching. My hand brushed hers when I took the glass. Her breath hitched when I set it down. "You were right," she said. "This shouldn't have happened." "Then why does it still feel like it is?" She smiled. Not happy, not sad, just tired of fighting it. "Because we didn't finish it." The words hung there. I could feel the warmth of her body from where I stood. One more step, and we'd cross the line for good. She reached up, almost absently, and brushed her fingers through my hair. The gesture slow, trembling, full of everything we hadn't said. My breath caught. Her hand lingered against my cheek. "I don't know how to let this go," I said. Her eyes softened, wet at the corners. "Then don't." That was the moment everything tilted. Not a rush, not a breaking, just a surrender. Her forehead rested against mine. The silence loud with heartbeat and breath, and the truth neither of us could keep pretending away. When she finally stepped back, she didn't look away. "Now we understand," she whispered. "And that has to be enough." She turned off the lamp. The room fell into shadow, but the air between us stayed lit. Heavy, human, and painfully real. It was almost dawn when I woke. The rain had stopped sometime during the night, leaving the air washed clean, soft with that early stillness before the world starts moving again. She was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, hair messy, eyes half closed. The lamp beside her glowed faintly, the only light in the room. "You're up early," I said. She smiled without looking at me. "Couldn't sleep." I sat across from her, and for a moment neither of us said anything. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. Felt easy, like something had finally settled. "I kept thinking," she said quietly, "about how strange this would look from the outside. How everyone would have an opinion." "They always do," I said. She nodded, her fingers tightening around the edge of the blanket. "I used to care about that. What people think. What's appropriate. But it's exhausting, isn't it? Pretending the rules make us happier." I moved closer, slow enough that she could stop me if she wanted to. She didn't. "You were never the rule-breaker type," I said, half smiling. "Guess I found the right person to test that theory," she murmured. Her tone was light, but her eyes told the truth. Everything she'd fought against, everything she'd finally let herself feel. I reached out, resting my hand over hers. Her fingers hesitated, then turned, threading through mine. The room felt warmer, or maybe that was just her. "I don't want to make your life complicated," I said. "If you need distance, stop," she whispered. "You keep giving me chances to run. I'm done running." The way she said it, calm, steady, made something inside me unclench. I leaned in, resting my forehead against hers. She exhaled softly, her breath brushing my lips. "This doesn't have to be forever," she said. "But it doesn't have to be nothing either." I smiled. "So, something?" Her laugh was quiet but real. "Something." We sat like that for a long time, no rush, no pretending, just the small comfort of being near. The first light of morning slipped through the curtains, catching in her hair. She looked younger in that light, or maybe just freer. When she finally leaned against my shoulder, her hand still in mine, I felt the kind of peace that doesn't need words. "I used to think regret came from mistakes," she said softly. "Now I think it comes from all the things we never let ourselves have." I turned my head slightly, pressing a slow kiss to her temple. "Then let's not regret this." She smiled into my shoulder. "Deal." Outside, the world started waking, cars, birds, life moving on. But for that small, quiet morning, it was just us. No more guilt, no more distance, just something real, imperfect, and finally allowed to exist. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?